Hey folks, Vic Bossell for thepracticalprepper.com. I mentioned yesterday when I was doing some of the site work here, getting most of this new DG down for the storms and the season. I was going to give you a little update on the generator. This is the Rigid RD 8000, which I selected. 8,000 full-time running watts or 10,000 on for short term. So basically 8,000 gives me 33 amps of 240. 10,000 will give me about 41, 42 amps at 240. The way that I've decided to employ this is not to do a manual or an automatic disconnect switch or transfer switch at the main service. I've opted to do a backfeed connection, which is a lot simpler. My service here would take a lot of work to rework it to get it to a transfer switch. It would incorporate permits, inspections, and just more crap than I wanted to go through. So this means is real simple, but you've got to be careful and you've kind of got to know what you're doing. In the event that I need this, let's say Nevada power goes down, I will go to the main service and I will shut that main breaker off. So now the house is disconnected from the line service from the utility. I'll come over I'll get the RD 8000 out of the garage. This thing wheels really well. Wheel it out here. The cord I made up has double male ends on it, as you can see right here. So one male end will go into the receptacle here, which is L1430. The other one will go into this connection behind me, which is also an L1430. So I can make this connection. The breaker inside here in this little sub panel that feeds this is always off. So I make sure that's off. I fire up the generator, make sure I've got power running, go inside, flip that breaker, and now I'm back feeding the entire system. We have a couple things that won't even work. We have an on-demand water heater, which way too much power for this to run. We don't use that. The dryer, we don't use that. Everything else, we're kind of set. We got gas, we got propane to cook with and heat. So that's a separate system. We'll have the minimal lighting that we need to do anything inside. And we'll be able to run the well and pump our water. So that gives me, several things to do. Now, something you want to think about too is if you've got generators. I have two. I have a small one, a 2000 that I use. It's a Honda, really nice generator. And I have this one. I exercise them every month. I have a maintenance schedule that I go through with things here on the ranch. And we exercise it every month. Make sure it works, the battery's charged. The battery stays on a trickle charger, so that helps. This wind is coming up, so it's probably a little noisy. One other thing I do is I always use treated fuel. I stable all my fuel. All my cans have a little black tie wrap on them. Anything with a tie wrap is stabilized. I've actually lost a generator and lost a chainsaw because I didn't do that. And I got them up after a time, and so protect your investment. The other thing I'll probably do is I'll put this battery on a little solar charger. Just connect it up, set it in the window, and it will just add a little trickle charge to that and take care of it every month. So this is one option. It's the one that I've chosen. Depending on where you are, you may want to do something different. I'll show you this one run real quick, get an idea of the sound. This one does have an auto start. So you kind of get an idea of the sound level. It's not quiet, but you're not going to run your generator all the time. You're going to only run your generator for a little bit of time to bring your refrigerator back down to temperature, or to maybe pump some water and fill a reservoir that you've depleted, and then you're going to shut it off. You'll like it, and your neighbors will like you a little more too. So, thanks. I'm back with you. I wanted to explain a little bit more with a whiteboard what I'm doing with the generator feed at my house. You can definitely choose to do this any way you want to, but I wanted to show you pretty much a standard installation, which is a typical ATS, versus what I'm doing, which my choice is to do a backfeed. Now, backfeeds are a little tricky. As long as you know what you're doing and you have an established procedure, you're okay. There's always the potential with a backfeed that you would accidentally leave the line power from the utility on or not turn it off and then fire up your generator, and what you will have is a conflict when they hit. So it is not recommended to do this. I'm opting to do this right now. Later on I may change to a transfer switch, but it's your choice. This is what I'm going to do right now. The typical ATS, now you may have an overhead feed to your house and you may have an underground feed to your house. Either way, they both go to your main and you have a main circuit breaker. A typical automatic transfer switch system will do one thing. It will add a panel right here, which is your ATS, or manual, the transfer switch, depending which way you want to go. The other part will be to add your generator at this end. What we do, typically we will change the line from utility to the ATS, or if you're underground, it will go this way. This will be eliminated, as will this. So if you're on an overhead, it will come in the overhead riser, go to the ATS first. From the ATS, it will go to your main panel. Your generator is also feeding the ATS, so the ATS will have a choice. It will see line voltage from the utility and say, we're online, we're staying online, we're connected, or it will see a failure from utility and automatically transfer to your generator. Most of the time your ATS will have control wiring that goes back and forth to your generator, and it will actually turn your generator and fire it up for you. Now this is, of course, the generator has to be in place all the time. It has to have almost a permanent installation in order to function this direction. So I have opted for a more simplistic approach, and one where I'm not going to have to tear my main service apart inside of my house to get the overhead wiring into an ATS. So my choice is the backfeed system. Since I'm going to do this on a temporary basis and I'm going to do this on my own, I've been in electrical for 35 years. I know what I'm doing. If you want to talk to someone about doing it, talk to a friend, talk to someone else who's done this. But understand there are risks when you do it the backfeed method. You just have to understand what you're doing, and you can be okay. So again, we have the same kind of service. We either have an overhead or we have an underground. We have a main panel, just like we did in the typical ATS. The difference is going to be that in my installation, I have a sub panel that's in my garage. So this is a sub panel. It's in my garage, and typically it ran from the house. When we originally bought the house, I realized that when they ran this out here, they just ran it for the pump. It needed 220, it didn't need a neutral. So they didn't run one. Well, you have all the lighting and the plugs and stuff that you use in a garage or a shop, if you make it into a shop, which I did. If you do that, you have to have a neutral. I mean, that's NEC. So I basically rewired from the main, from my main service all the way back over here, and I brought another 50 amp service over here. So now this sub panel is connected to the main service with a 50 amp. Everything's protected per code. What I have done is taken off my sub panel, and I have basically in the sub panel I have a 40 amp 2-pole breaker. I've run this to a receptacle, which is an L1430. My generator is going to sit right next to it, and it also has an L1430 on it. So all we need to do is to do a flexible cord from here to the generator to connect it to power. So as I did a little bit in the video when I showed you outside, I'm going to wheel the generator out. It stays in the garage. In fact, it's right there on a trickle charger. I roll it out, the power goes out, I roll it out. You know, again, one of the other things that I've shown on the website, you'll find a night lighting video where you can put together your basically your dark bag for the house. So if the power goes out, I grab that, I come out, I get the generator, I roll it around. First of all, I determine what I think the length of time outage is going to be. You know, I may not hook this generator up. If I wait 30 minutes and I'm not seeing power, then I might decide, okay, it's time for me to do it. I may try to endure, and I may try to do other things. I've got LED battery backup lights. I may get those fired up. I'm going to build some 12-volt battery storage here in the garage and be able to convert that to 120. And I may work on some doing some circuit feeds back from that. That's a project over the winter. But basically, I'll plug this, put the generator in, I'll hook up the cord. This breaker in here, like I mentioned, is always off. There's no reason to feed 40 amps out there or 30 amps out there. I don't need it. I could work out a little quickie cord and I could plug a welder in if I wanted it out there, but basically it's there and it's dedicated to emergency power. So once I have it plugged in, this breaker's off, I go to the main and I turn this one off completely. Disconnect me from this utility, whether it's overhead or underground. We're now dead here from the utility. There's no chance of a backfeed where I would connect either my overhead or underground utility to my generator. Once this is open, this breaker's open or off, there's no power in the system. I turn this breaker on, or I fire up the generator first, then turn this breaker on. I'm now backfeeding the system. And as I mentioned, we have a on-demand water heater, which we like. We never run out of hot water, but it has a very high draw. There's no way that generator is going to run that. It just won't. And I'm not going to expect it to. If we need hot water, we've got propane, excuse me, I've got other backup sources. I've got tanks and cooking. I've got plenty of backup to create hot water. My priorities on a generator for this house, for this homestead, would be to do one thing, and that is to keep water pumping. Even though I do have water storage over here, I want to keep it pumping. I want to keep whatever lights I can find on, whatever I choose to keep on. And a lot of the lighting I'm now changing over to LED to lower the draw. And LEDs are just amazing. They're expensive as hell, but they're amazing. And I think if you want to do one thing for your house to help your generator and you can run more lights, is start moving things to LED. It's just a great source. So my priorities are keeping the pump room, keeping some lights on, keeping the phones up, maybe getting the computers up so I can access things on the computer. I may not have internet. I mean, nobody may have anything. But I'm able to do that. So I'm able to continue and function. I've got propane to run to do all my cooking. I can use the propane to create hot water. I've got a fireplace as a redundant backup heat source. So all in all, I need this to provide just the energy for illumination and for pumping my water. Besides that, I can function fine. So I hope this kind of explained what I was doing. It was a little windy out there when I was doing a generator, so I wanted to kind of elaborate on what we're doing here, what I'm doing, and you need to make your own choices. Either go this route, get yourself a qualified installation. I suggest getting a licensed contractor and have them come out and look at doing this for you. They could actually size this a little larger to handle some things, to handle a lot larger load. Some of these in-place generators can do an awful lot more for you. You may want to look at propane generators if you're on propane. Propane's expensive, but it doesn't have a lot of the problems that fuel's going to have, like I'm stabilizing my fuel. Propane, no problem, lasts forever. Gasoline won't. So it's stabilized, that's fine. So there's propane. You may want to look at that. So just try to give you some ideas of what you can do and what I'm doing. And hopefully that helps you be a little more self-sufficient and be ready when that next power outage hits. Until then, take care.